my beautiful people. It has been a very small hot minute since I have posted my House of Earth and Blood dedicated reading vlog. That's only been up for a couple of weeks. When's Sky and Breath coming? Well, Sky and Breath was on my February TBR, and today I have decided, I've taken my dust jacket off of it because I didn't want it to get damaged, but today is the day I start House of Sky and Breath. There's 10 days left in February. Am I going to be able to finish this? Who knows? We're just going to have to wait and see as the time goes on. This is bigger than House of Earth and Blood. It's a bigger challenge. It's a chonky book. I'm not scared of chonky books anymore. This vlog is going to show you all of my emotions. You will be with me on the ride and the journey of this story. Sarah J Maas is going to pull at every heartstring that I become attached to. I can't wait to see what happens with Bryce and Hunt. I feel like one of them are going to die. I don't know anything. I know no spoilers about this. And just as a forewarning, this is going to be a spoiler vlog. So if you have not read this book and you want to read it, then please do not watch this video. If you are never going to read this book and you just want to know what the book's about and you know what the first one's about, then continue to watch this video. But you have been warned. But yeah, I've not been subjected to any spoilers, which is great. I just feel like either Bryce or Hunt are going to die and I'm going to be absolutely devastated. And I don't know who I'm going to be devastated more about if one of them die. I don't know. But we are going to begin the journey and we are going to start this. How many pages? I'm sure this is like, oh goodness. Why are these not numbered like at the end? Bizarre. Oh, I've got a behind the scenes peek at what some of the characters are up to. This is 805 pages. 805 pages. How long is it going to take me to read this? We are just going to have to wait and see. Welcome! So I've read the prologue and I am halfway through chapter 2. The prologue with Sophie, I feel like that part of the story didn't really grip me in any way at all. I feel like I was just so invested in reading about Bryce and Hunt that I wasn't really interested in that. So I feel like I didn't really take in much of the prologue. She was running, she got caught, and then she died. Or what I'd imagine she died. I just wasn't gripped by it at all. And then we've kind of went into it and Bryce is with her parents. Ember Quaylen cracks me up. Like, she is like a mum that just constantly pesters you and constantly annoys you, but like you can tell that her intentions are just always good, and she just cracks me up. Like, some of the things she says, I'm just like, what? Like when she says to Bryce, like, what's happening with you and Hunt? Like, you're together but you're not together, like, tell me. It's like, that is like a conversation that you would have with like a best friend. I mean, I would have that conversation with my mum, but not everybody would have that conversation with their mum. So it just cracked me up because Bryce was just kind of like, well, it's none of your goddamn business. And that really made me laugh because Ember was just kind of like, well, I just want to know your business. So why aren't you telling me? Like, are you or are you not? So it was quite funny because obviously as a reader, we don't know if they are or are they not. Like, we know the stuff that's going on. Ember doesn't know the stuff that's going on. But yeah, it made me laugh. And the dad's just kind of like, just chill, Ember. Just chill. Just ignore your mum. Like, it's fine. So I love that dynamic between her mum and her stepdad, or who she calls dad. And then Hunt's just come into the theatre because they're going to be watching Juniper on the stage, and Hunt's in this like suit, and Bryce is just kind of looking at him as if to say hubba hubba. So I don't really know like where that part of it's going or how relevant that is to like the story, but I think it's a nice way to kind of like open it in that Bryce and Hunt are just kind of like living their lives and doing like normal things like going to the theatre. I just feel like that wasn't really something that I expected, but it was nice because it's nice for them to be living a nice wholesome life considering what happened in the first book, where it was just constant chaos that they were surrounded by, and then there was the war. So it's nice for them to have that moment of being in the theatre. I don't feel like that's going to stay forever. I feel like it's the calm before the storm, but it was just nice to see them living in a nice little world. for a little while anyway, at least. Now up to chapter 3, and Cormac has just come into the party, like Rune's party, and has basically said that Bryce has to marry him. Like, what the fuck? No, she can't marry him because she's gonna marry Hunt and have babies with Hunt. So I'm sorry, Cormac, but you can't. And Bryce and Hunt have this agreement on that they're basically not gonna fornicate until the winter solstice, and there's still like 4 months to go. But no. We will wait those 4 months, you guys. You cannot get married to somebody else. Like, no. That can't happen. We can't allow that to happen. And after the party and after all that shit's gone down, Bryce and Hunt get back to their apartment and they smell blood, and then there's like so much going on, and they think, oh my god. Bryce's immediate reaction is she thinks it's her parents that are inside, that they've been murdered, that it's happening all over again, like what happened to Danica in the first book. And they find, I have forgotten his name. They find, is it Aisha? No. Ethan. What you will learn in my dedicated reading vlogs is sometimes I will pronounce names or make up names, and that's just how I roll. So if I pronounced it wrong, please correct me in the comments and let me know how to pronounce it, because these are just the way that I'm reading it. But yeah, so Bryce and Hunt open the door and he's just lying there, like bleeding out. Now, I don't know if he's bleeding out or if he's covered in like blood that belongs to somebody else. I'm not really sure. Chapter 4 is obviously, or chapter 3? Chapter 3, I think. God, I don't even know what chapter I'm on. Chapter 5. I'm on chapter 5. I'm on page 70, chapter 5. Yes, so we're going to find out what's happening with Ethan. I'm pretty sure it's Ethan. We are going to find out what's going on with him and why he's bleeding all over the place, or why he's covered in blood. I haven't done an update for a couple of days because I haven't been reading, but I do have an update now, and we are slowly making some progress. So I am almost at the 200 page mark. So I'm on page 180 currently. What has happened? So remember at the start of this vlog that I said that I didn't really understand the prologue and like Sophie, her character, her story? Well, that's all come into play now. So I'm at the stage where Bryce and Tharian has basically started discussing like the rebel alliances and how Sophie is basically being hunted, and her brother, because they have certain powers and people are really interested in finding them. Now, they tried to drown Sophie, but Sophie was, when they went to the location where she had been like basically weighted down to the bottom of the seabed, she had escaped. She was not there. But at the moment, it's a bit of a Schrodinger's cat situation because we don't know if she's alive or dead. But it has been found. Tharian found email correspondence between Sophie and Danica. So it looks like Danica was helping the rebels in some way, which doesn't surprise me because Danica had her finger in a lot of pies. She was doing a lot of things, and it doesn't surprise me in any way, shape or form that she has been a part of this. But basically, because of the way Bryce now is with her starlight power and her like people having knowledge that she is a princess and that she is Rune's sister, the consequences of her trying to find Sophie and help her are higher than they once would have been when she was just Bryce, before she knew she had the starlight. So she could be slaughtered, basically, for trying to help the rebels. And Tharian is trying to like bring Bryce in. Hunt doesn't want anything to do with it. Hunt understands that Bryce wants to help, but he thinks that the consequences of her being in danger is just not worth it. I don't know where it's going with Sophie. I do believe that Sophie is still alive because it wouldn't make sense if she had died. I don't know where she's hiding. So they had said that Danica had put in an email that there's basically a place that you can hide, and they're trying to work out where this place is. But we don't know where that place is yet. I am definitely enjoying this book. I don't know if I'm enjoying it as much as House of Earth and Blood. House of Earth and Blood, I just felt like really pulled me in really quickly, whereas this one, I feel like I am enjoying it, but it's not got the same kick to it. But I feel like that's because not a huge amount has happened yet. But we know with Sarah J. Maas that she likes to tell a story and she likes to build it up. This thing with Bryce being married off to that prince who is a dick, he just sounds like a total dick. I feel like, is it Cormac? I feel like he might play a big part in helping with Sophie, and I feel like he could turn into a nice guy, but I don't want to sit here and say that he is a nice guy because right now I think he's a dick. But I feel like characters can redeem themselves in the Sarah J. Maas world. I mean, it has happened previously, but then we also are made to believe that people are golden and then they're not. But Cormac, like, I get dick vibes from him, but I do feel like he's going to help in the Sophie situation. But I could be wrong. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I'm going to continue reading now and update you again soon. So, a little check-in. I am on page 266, and what has been going on, there has been a tiny little bit of smut that happened between Bryce and Hunt. It wasn't like sex, but it was quite a nice little build up, especially for Hunt. So that was nice for them to be exercising that nice healthy activity. We also have the whole thing with Cormac wanting to marry Bryce, but we now know that Cormac only wants to marry Bryce so that he has an excuse to be in that area that they are in, because he is in love with Sophie. Now, Sophie is the character that was in the prologue, and they're now all looking for her brother Emil, because he's got all these powers and people want to capture him basically and use him as a weapon. Hunt really doesn't want Bryce getting involved with this. Hunt has had one of the princes of hell come to visit him and is very aware of him and has spoken to him. So all of that's going on as well. And then Rune doesn't really want to be involved either, but they're all kind of going along with it because that's what Bryce wants to do. We also have talks of Pippa now appearing, and she has been hunting down Emil. We don't know if she's found Emil or not yet, but I obviously have to continue reading to find out if that is going to happen. But someone has been killed who had the scent of Emil on them, by Pippa, I'm imagining, because she's hunting him down, trying to find him. So everyone's basically trying to find this boy because he's got so much powers. And I still think Sophie's alive. Cormac's in love with Sophie, and he obviously wants to find her as well. He wants to rebel against everything because he loves Sophie. Hunt has went to go see the new Archangel, and is it Celestina? I really like her. I feel like she's a really good person to be in charge because she has just admitted that she tried to buy Hunt several times, and was unsuccessful. They wouldn't sell him. She knows who Hunt killed. She knows who Bryce killed in the Archangel side of things, and she sympathizes with Hunt and the people in the 33rd. And I think that's quite nice in the position that she's in, because prior to that, all the Archangels have been horrendous. So I feel like we should be able to trust her, but I also feel like we've been given too much trust in her from the start. And I feel like there could be some form of like romance between her and Hunt. I don't know why I've got that impression. I just feel like there's going to have to be some form of spanner in the works between Hunt and Bryce, and it's not going to be anything to do with Cormac because he's interested in Sophie. I don't know if Bryce and Cormac are going to end up being married. I don't know if it's going to get as far as that. I'm not really sure it's an arranged marriage, so I don't know when it's going to be arranged for, so we're just going to have to wait and see. But I feel like Celestina, probably pronouncing it wrong, I feel like she's got a different agenda. She has asked Hunt about Bryce, but I feel like there's just something there, and I feel like I'm going to dislike her towards the end of this book. and she's going to do something that's just going to really anger me. That's how I feel. Like she's going to do something really dramatic and really drastic. I just feel like we've been given too much trust in her from a really early stage. And generally, that does not bode well in a Sarah J Maas book. So that is just my thoughts and feelings so far. I am 10 pages or so away from part 3. Oh, I'm not even 10 pages. I'm like 6 or 7 pages away from part 2. And I will check in again with you guys soon. Just checking in, another day, some more pages of House of Sky and Breath. I've just read a part of when Fury was explaining why June didn't like the meat market, because they're currently in the meat market looking for a meal. Everything seems to be pointing to the Bone Quarter, but Bryce was pretty much convinced that they should go check out the meat market, so that's where they are. June hates the meat market, and Fury has just explained that June's little brother was a fighter that was basically bought by the Viper Queen, and he was doing like these illegal type underground fights and was killed and was left on June's parents' doorsteps like after he died. So he died 10 years ago. And Fury made a comment saying, I'll burn this place to the ground for her one day. I wonder if this is a small insight into something that is going to happen in books 3 or books 4, if there's going to be 4 books, because there's the 4 houses, so I'm presuming there's 4 books, but it's only been written for a trilogy, so, well, it's only been signed up for a trilogy, but this could be something that happens in this book. I don't know, but I just felt like that line was just so significant and I wanted to share it with you guys. But they're still currently looking for a meal. There's not a lot going on. The Viper Queen's kind of coming more into the story. Bryce wants to go see the Underking to find out if a meal is in the Bone Quarter. Hunt obviously doesn't want any of that going on because Hunt doesn't want Bryce to be in danger, and he just feels that if she goes to the Underking, he's not probably going to tell them where Emil is. So in itself, it's just a dangerous activity that maybe doesn't need to happen. But that's kind of where I am just now. So I'm on page 304. So we are making progress, but we still have a big chunk to go. It is currently 12:15, and like I said, I'm on page 304, and I want to get to part 3 today. And that would take me up to page 529. So I am hoping to do a big chunk and do lots of updates for you today, so just watch this space. The scene in the gym between Bryce and Hunt, oh my goodness, what a scene. The fact that his wingspan, if you know, you know, basically sheltered out all of the windows so that he could just enjoy her himself. And that scene, it was so good. And then Bryce said she loved Hunt, and that's the first time she's kind of even mentioned that. We knew that he was really important to her, but it's never really been brushed on that she was in love with him. And she just said it as he was like mid face first with her private parts. And the thing is, he didn't even say it first. He continued the job that he was currently doing and then resurfaced and then said it back to her. And now Bryce has this fear that Hunt has just said it because he feels sorry for her. And then they've had the conversation of what they're going to call each other. And because Hunt's like hundreds of years old, he can't be called a boyfriend in Bryce's eyes. She was like, it seems silly. So they've kind of held on to the word mate. So they've said that they're going to call each other mates. And Bryce is like, you know, for the Fae, that's a forever thing. Like, that's a bond that can't be broken if you're mates. And Hunt's like, yeah, but for me, this is forever. And I feel like Bryce is going to have, like, commitment doesn't seem to be something that I feel Bryce has had a lot of experience with. And I feel like she is going to get scared at some point of the feelings that Hunt has for her. Even though she has them for Hunt, I feel like she is just going to freak out. And then I feel like he's going to like sleep with Celestina. However you pronounce it. I feel like he's going to sleep with her. And I don't know why. And I don't think Hunt's a bad guy, but I think Bryce is going to break his heart and he's just going to think, fuck it. I could be completely wrong here. I probably am completely wrong here, but I'm just kind of putting it out into the atmosphere because who knows what might happen. But I'm currently on page... Did I lose my bookmark? I'm on page 318. The funny thing is, they haven't actually even had sex yet. They've known each other for 5 months. Now they're just kind of giving each other head and taking it in turns. But Hunt and Bryce have just discussed that they're going to get a hotel room the following night. So maybe they are going to consummate this. But then everyone's going to be able to smell and sense that they've done that. And isn't she meant to be marrying Cormac? Isn't that going to stir up like a lot of stuff? And they're going to see the Underking the next day. So what are they going to do? Go visit the Underking for the Underking to then say, I don't know where Emil is, now I'm going to kill you. And then after they've kind of done all of that and probably been in some sort of like fight for their lives because they're going to like the below, they're just going to be like, yeah, we'll just go rent a hotel and fuck each other's brains out. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. It just seems a bit weird. I feel like they're going to be a bit emotionally drained after seeing the Underking, and I don't think the way to celebrate going to see the Underking to look for this 13-year-old boy Emil, I don't think the reward after that is to go to a hotel and then just consummate their love for each other. Could just be me. I feel like a lot happened in like a 20-page segment. So Rune and Cormac were investigating areas and they came across, is it Mordock? We found out that Mordock is also Danica's father. I don't really know a lot about Mordock. I feel like I've maybe missed something or it's just kind of coming into the story. I think it seems to be a big secret that Mordock is Danica's dad, because Rune was trying to find out if Bryce knew that that's who her dad was. So maybe he's going to play a bigger part to this story. He seems to be hunting for Emil, but he now has Rune scent, so he's gonna try and find Rune basically. And Cormac can teleport, and possibly Bryce can teleport. I forgot to mention that like before. So Cormac proved that he could teleport and said that Bryce probably has that ability as well, but they're going to do like some form of training session that hasn't actually happened yet to see if she physically can. But because she seems to have all this other power and she seems to be more powerful than everyone else, she should potentially have the power to teleport. So that's going on that side of things. And then we've got Bryce and Hunt down with the Underking. Now all hell literally is breaking loose down there. So Bryce has got the sword with her. She basically went down and said, look, what's going on? She found out that she'd been lied to, that the way that it was proposed that happened after you passed away was like this green, beautiful, wonderful place, like resting place, but that doesn't seem to be the case at all. It seems to be that like parts of their soul are taken away and they're basically sent to go rot somewhere, and it sounds horrendous. And what happened is Bryce in the first book had swapped her place down there, so to make sure that Danica went there because she was scared that Danica wouldn't go there because of the bad things that she did. And now Bryce is like, I've basically just sent my best friend down here and it's horrendous. Hunt's now worrying at the fact that he's going to end up down there soon and he thinks that they're both going to die. They've just been attacked by the three things and Hunt has just fired lightning onto the sword, and the last part of that chapter, the words were, Hunt's lightning hit the star sword and the world erupted. So that is the part that I'm up to. So I'm going to continue reading. I'm on page 350. But a lot happened in that section. I am so excited to see what happens. I'm imagining that they're probably going to get out. That or someone's going to die because somebody always dies. And is this going to be one of those things where I think Hunt's a way to die and then I'm going to cry and get really emotional about it and then everything turns out okay? Or is he actually going to die? Why do I think it's Hunt? Right, okay. We're going to read on. I'm not going to make assumptions because I always make a fool of myself when I do it. So Bryce and Hunt are fine. Hi, Gunnar. Well, they're not fine. Bryce had this big gash up her back, but luckily the horn, it missed it by millimeters. Hunt's a bit bashed up as well. Tharian was at the river where they needed to get the boat to go back. And then they hurried back to Bryce's apartment. I felt like that bit was a little bit rushed. I felt like we didn't really get to live in that moment and have like our chest beating. Usually my chest beats really fast and I get really excited when stuff like that's happening. And I'm like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? But I just felt like it was just kind of like switched off like pretty quickly. Like, there's Tharian, there's the boat, here's a little bit of something else, and then they're back at Bryce's apartment. I've never really felt like that with Sarah J Maas. Did anybody else feel that on that side of things? I don't know. It didn't sit well with me. It was a bit strange. We have just had the Hind and Harpy come into the bar that Cormac and no, Cormac was not there. Rune and Ethan were sitting in, and they've just played decks of cards with him and basically said, Rune, I know that you're sleeping about, that you've done this, you're going to be my half sister, I need to kind of scope you out. And then said that Ethan, probably saying it wrong, we all know, is in love with Bryce. He's been in love with Bryce this whole time, that he was happy when Connor died in the first one because then the path was clear for Bryce. I haven't once thought that he had feelings for her. I just always thought that he was just a really dear friend to her because she cared so much about Connor and like sought out the revenge for his brother. I didn't think that there was going to be like a romantic element to that. Now Rune knows that as well. I don't know how Rune's going to use that, and I feel like that might slip out. I'm not 100% sure. We're just going to have to see how that goes. But that really took me by surprise, and I feel like that is going to play a bigger part in the story later on. Some time has passed, but I have still done some reading, and I wanted to check in with you guys. I'm on page 422. I can't remember what the page was that I was on last time, but I have just got up to the part where they go to the Mystics, and then there's the tubs with the like people in it, and then they go to hell because they're trying to find Connor's soul and find out where he is, and they find out he's in the Bone Quarter. That whole chapter and that whole scene was just so vivid in my brain. Like, I saw everything going on. I mean, when I'm reading, I see everything kind of going on anyway. But my God, the way that was like described, I actually felt like I was there looking at the tubs with the projection coming from his eyes, showing the prince down in hell, speaking to them. And he's like trying to steal their souls. And then Ethan is like, no, we've got to get them out. He's cracking the ice. The guy, oh, what did they call him again? Forgotten. What was he called? Can't remember. The astronomer is like screaming and everything, being like, you shouldn't have done that, you need to get out of here. And then they come out of there, they've got the whole experience, they know that Connor is in the Bone Quarter and he's not down in hell. Why the guy in the tub was taken down to hell for that to happen, I'm not entirely sure. I feel like that'll maybe be explained later on. But they come out of the astronomer's establishment, and Mordok is sitting there asking if they've been causing trouble. 1, why is he floating about? And 2, what business does he have? I know he's looking for a meal, but is he now on to Bryce and stuff, thinking, I know that you guys are looking for a meal too, so I'm going to follow you guys because you're probably going to find him first, and then that way I can sneak and take him as a weapon. Everyone is in on this weapon stuff. Bryce just wants to help a 13-year-old boy, and everybody else is like, we can use this weapon for gains. But the prince in hell did say, I thought that weapon, like the boy, was destroyed years ago. And Bryce was like, yeah, because the prince didn't seem to know. So was there another person that was like Emil that existed in the world? Hello, we are making progress. Finally, I am on part 3. I've still got quite a long way to go. I've got just under 300 pages to go. But I thought I'd come in and check in with you guys because I feel like I've read a lot of pages and not updated yous. So here we go. I have read the part where Bryce and Hunt make sweet, sweet love in the forest, and then they end up teleporting and going to the airlock. That was hilarious and very sexy. It's not the smuttiest I've read from Sarah J Maas, but like, it was okay. I feel like there's way more smut in this one than the first one, like the first book, but I feel like it's tamer for some reason, and considering it's an adult fantasy, I was expecting it to be a bit more. I feel like the ACOTAR series was just a bit more, you know? So it's a bit strange. We've also found out that Sophie drowned and people found her body and removed her from the lake. So Cormac has found this out and is obviously absolutely devastated. They go to the morgue to see her body and they obviously know that it is definitely Sophie. So Sophie has been killed. Pippa is currently running about, still sort of killing all these innocent Venars, don't know how to pronounce it. She is off killing all of them, still looking for Emil. We don't know anything further on Emil. We don't know his location. We don't know anything apart from the fact that everybody is basically looking for him because he is a weapon and everybody wants to use him, whereas Hunt and Bryce and everyone want to find him and protect him. And Cormac now thinks that it's his job, because he was in love with Sophie, that he needs to get Emil and protect him and look after him for the rest of eternity, basically. We've also just been at the scene where Rune is with Day, and Day has just told the story of how there's this princess and she needs this kiss, and whoever's brave enough to like see past her flame and get to her basically will break the spell. So Rune thinks, I could be this warrior guy that could break the spell. He gets up to go and kiss her. She wakes up, she freaks out, and then she turns around and said, oh, by the way, the princess turned into a beast before she hit the floor, so she ripped apart the warrior that tried to kiss her. So thank God Rune didn't end up in that situation, because I think what she was trying to say is, if you try and save me, you will die. So that is kind of a brief summary of where I'm up to just now. I have no idea what part 3 is going to have in store for me. I feel like it's the last part. So I'm on page, what page are we on? Oh, for goodness sake. I'm on chapter 48, but I'm on page 533. So I think there's 805 pages. So I still have a healthy chunk to go. And it is currently the 1st of March. So I brought this book into March, which really annoys me. But here we are. A lot of things happened in February, so it's totally understandable. So I am trying to get this finished as early on in March as I can. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about this book. I've heard a lot of people have been unhauling this book because they get really angry at the ending. I feel like I've heard too much of that types of conversations, and I don't know if that's what's throwing me off my enjoyment of this book. But I do definitely feel a shift in the writing in this book compared to the first one. The first one, I was absolutely in love with it. It kind of became my favourite book. I loved the action, I loved the fantasy elements of it, I loved the characters, I loved the storylines, I loved all the plots. Everything in the first book was so good for me. The second book, there's still a lot going on, the same as the first book, but I just feel like it's a little bit weaker, and I'm not entirely sure like where this is going to go, like when they find Emil, like what's going to happen, like is there going to be like a war, like I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Danica obviously has a lot of involvement in all this stuff that's going on with the rebellion. And yeah, I'm just not 100% sure what's going to happen. I just feel like it's very Bryce and Hunt orientated about them having sex. But I feel like the fact that they've had sex and they've kind of worked out that their powers kind of can entwine. I forgot to say that earlier. So their powers entwine. So their powers together obviously do something, but we don't fully know what that is because Bryce has got her power from the gates, and they don't really know a lot about that because nobody's really done that before. So yeah, it's been kind of a will they, won't they have sex up until this point, and now they've had sex. I'm like, okay, is the action now coming? Like, are we gonna get the other storylines other than just Bryce and Hunt having sex? Which is amazing. I love the fact that they're having sex, but I'm just wanting more from this book than that. So Emil has been found, and it was all orchestrated by Bryce that the Viper Queen was going to find Emil before anybody else did, take him in and protect him until Bryce got there, and then Bryce was going to pick him up. Bryce kind of had a hunch that Emil had no power whatsoever. Hunt had no idea any of this was going on, so when they finally came to Emil and to the Viper Queen, Hunt had no idea. The Viper Queen had never been told that Emil had no power, so she protected him, but when Bryce was taking Emil away, she could kind of sense that the Viper Queen knew that he didn't really have the value that everybody seemed to think he had, because everyone imagined he was this weapon. Emil has 0 power. The only value that Emil seems to have is the value that Sophie had, because he was part of her family. So she was trying to protect him, so he was valuable to her. Bryce has then taken Emil, and Emil is going to go stay with Bryce's parents. I'm not sure how that's going to go down, because people are maybe still going to be looking for Emil, thinking he's a weapon. So is that then going to put Bryce's parents in danger? I'm a bit confused. They are going to give him a new birth certificate. They are going to give him a new identity. So hopefully that all pans out well, and poor little Emil, who's lost his sister, can just live a nice life with Bryce's family. What else has happened? There is fire sprites that have been stolen from the guy that did the thing with the baths. I can't remember what he's classed as. And the fire sprite's been stolen, and so has the dragon. Bryce has just been introduced to them, and she has phoned Jessica to say, look, the guy that owned these, can we buy them in some way, because they're really valuable. We have also found out that the dragon, who takes the form of this fiery, curvy woman with no clothes on, she refuses to put clothes on, which cracked me up a little bit. She has so much value because she can literally destroy the princes of hell, which is something that so far there has been no way to eradicate them. So potentially this dragon could do that. God knows how much money he's going to ask for her, because she is totally invaluable, but they don't want her getting into the wrong hands. And then the last bit that has come up is Hunt has went to see Celestina, the Archangel, and he has come out of the building after speaking to the Hind, who is just a horrible human being. I'm pretty sure it is the Hind is what she's called. I'm pretty positive it is. Let me just double check. Yeah, the Hind was in the bathroom putting on her lipstick and was talking about having sex with someone, and Hunt came out of the building and saw that somebody had been blood eagled on the gates, and Celestina, can't say her name, I can't even remember how I've been saying it, but anyway, the Archangel has basically allowed this to happen on their property. So the fact that I thought she maybe wasn't as good as we thought she was, I could be correct, because why would you allow blood eagling happening? I mean, that's a horrific thing to happen to someone. But Hunt's now worried, because in his head he's like, is that what Hunt and Bryce are going to be destined to be displayed as? When you're blood eagled, you're put up there, you're still alive, so that's going to be horrific pain, so he doesn't want Hunt to endure that. So that is where we are up to just now. I'm on page 564 and I'm chapter 52, so still a way to go, but Emil has been located, bits of the story are coming together. I'm feeling a bit more into the book than I was in the last check-in, because last check-in I was feeling a bit flat with the book and I felt like it was just kind of all about Bryce and Hunt, but now I feel like it is merging out into different directions, and I like that. A reading update, because it has been several days since I last spoke to you, and I'm currently having an electricity problem. I've had no sockets in my house for this is day 4 now, so I am currently curled up in bed with all the layers on, because I can't even get my heating on, can't even make a cup of tea. All I can physically do is sit and read, and that's what I'm doing, and I'm streaming sprints on my iPad using my phone's internet, so I'm hotspotting. So there we are, little update, and I'm absolutely freezing, but progress has been made. I'm on page 611, so we are slowly but surely getting there. We have just had Ethan being attacked by one of the demons. He had his throat and everything slit. I don't know if he's okay yet. We haven't really been told yet, so I'm like, what's going on? Bryce is freaking out because she's like, oh my god, it's Connor's brother, she's gonna have to relive this again. The Autumn King has decided, because Bryce was throwing her name around for the royal ballet for Juniper, basically she was going about saying Juniper must get a position in the ballet because I'm the princess of the Autumn King, and here we are. And the Autumn King found out about this, and basically he turned around and went, if you are acting like a princess and throwing the princess's name about, then you will have to change your last name. So she is now like Bryce Dannon, like Rune's last name. She's got the same last name. So she's kept this to herself. She's really angry with the Autumn King. She doesn't want that name. She's furious because she knows that it's really going to upset her mum, Ember. Wow, Gunner. Sorry, Gunner just jumped right up on top of the bookcase in here. So she's furious because her mum's going to be so upset, but she hasn't told Hunt yet. And then Rune has basically just came along and said, congratulations, I know the news. Do you know the news? You're my brother-in-law. He's just said that to Hunt, and Hunt's like, what the fuck is going on? So that is kind of like a brief wrap-up of what's going on. Hunt has told Tharian to call off his search for Emil because Emil's not important, and Tharian's worried what the Queen's gonna say because obviously she's wanting Emil because she thinks he's got powers, but he doesn't. So Hunt has kind of like warned him off and just been like, look, he doesn't have any powers in a roundabout way, like he's not worth looking for. And Tharian's like, well, I'm gonna end up being killed, and Hunt's like, you don't need to tell him straight away. So that is pretty much my roundabout update. So Ethan, however you pronounce his name, is a-okay, so that's good. The thing that's going on with like Rune and Day is really weird. So they're both going to be going to the autumnal like ball, and they're going to meet each other. So they only really seem to interact when Rune goes to sleep, and then he goes on her couch and they have conversations, and it feels very much like Rune has fallen in love with this person. But Day has said to Rune, I can meet you at the water fountain at midnight and we can meet each other, but you might not like who I am. How can I trust you? How do I know that you are not gonna get, like, you're not trying to work against me and this is all a trap? So I'm not really sure what's going on with that storyline. I literally have no idea who Day could be. Rune is obviously meant to be marrying Apaxthea, who healed Ethan, or Ethan. I'm really unsure how I'm pronouncing it, and it's probably wrong on both parts. It's probably something totally different, but anyway. So she healed him, because Ethan was her bodyguard and he was attacked by I think it was like some form of like death stalker, I think it was called. So basically someone had put death stalkers on them, and when a death stalker has been put on you, they will basically stalk you until they kill you. But they think that the hit was maybe on Hypaxthea instead of on Bryce, because they come from the pits of hell, and Bryce is on talking terms with one of the princes of hell. So I'm presuming that was Hypaxthea. I can't say that either, but we'll just have to wait and see. So I want to see where it goes with Rune and Day. So they're meeting at the water fountain, the autumnal ball type thing, and they've got to say day and night to each other to know that they are who they are, because it's a masked event, so they're not going to know. But yeah, it's all happening.
Excuse the weird lighting. I can't change the colour of the bulb in Daniel's room. I tried to speak to Google. She's not listening to me. So I am on page 669 and a lot has happened. So the ball happened. Rune went to go meet Day. Day saw him, but the hind ended up... Was it the hind that ended up? No, it was Harpy that ended up at the fountain. And Rune panicked thinking that Harpy was Day. So he said Day to her, and she said, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's not Harpy that is Day, which is good. Rune went to go see Day to explain to her, and she said, I saw you dancing with Hypaxthea, and like I did see you, I was there, I know who you are now, you're Rune. So his identity is now out, but he still doesn't know who she is, and I have no idea who Day is. No idea yet. But basically Day is now terrified because it was such a close call. that they were almost cut out. So I don't know if Rune's going to find out who Day is, or if Day was in fact Harpy, because she knows that he is so against her and that they're enemies, that maybe she's just not going to let on that it is who she says she is. But I feel like that's maybe not the case. And then Hunt and Bryce, during that ball, decide to go to a cloakroom to canoodle a little bit, and the door is locked. So Hunt, being the man that he is, basically bars down the door and decides that they're gonna go and make out in there. But that door was obviously locked for a reason, because Hypixia and Celestina, the Archangel, are in there canoodling. So basically they have a little love relationship affair thing going on, which totally took me by surprise. I was not expecting that, but I'm like, it makes more sense now. While Celestina had to obviously consummate with the guy that begins with E, can't say the name, so that made sense why she was so nervous and really uncomfortable, because she's in love with Hypixia. Oh, God knows. I'm also getting sleepy, so I don't know. And then what else has happened? Oh, Ethan and, is it Hypixia? They have tried to summon Connor to find out if he's okay. And one of the princes of hell the Underking has come along, and he is basically like, he's here, he's safe, but you need to be careful in what you're dabbling with. And then we've had Hunt and Hunt being told in a dream, she's been dragged into a dream and being told that the power between her and Hunt is really important and she needs to explore it more, which they're not. Her star power and his lightning do something, and basically his power helps her Starlight. And she finds out that the firstborn Starlight was having an affair, well, not having an affair, but having a relationship with one of the princes of hell, and like thought that they were enemies and that can't be a thing that happens. But apparently they were allies. So all of this is kind of going on. But she has been told in this dream that she can open the gates of hell, and they want her to open the gates of hell. So are the princes of hell trying to use her to open the gate so that they can just create havoc like they did in Crescent City 1? Is that what's going on? I don't know. So all feels like it's happening. I am going to try and finish this tonight. It's 8:30 and I've got like 145 pages left. Could be quite doable. I really want to get it finished, and I really want to know if I'm going to be angry or upset at the end of this. I'm getting more into the story now. Crescent City, the first one, I was so immersed in it immediately, but the second one's taken me a lot longer. I just feel like it's been very much about Bryce and Hunt having sex, and I have said that before. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love their relationship, I love what's going on, but I wanted more from the story for it being a fantasy. And I feel like that's all coming together now. But I mean, we've had to get to like 600 pages to get to that stage. But I feel like I'm going to be very surprised by a lot of things that are coming. And I feel like I'm going to hate people that maybe I like now. And yeah, that I'm not going to put any assumptions out there because I'm not 100% sure. But we're just going to have to wait and see. But I feel like my heart's going to get broken. Like I can feel it brewing. And I think I might cry. I've got a feeling I'm going to cry. Hello, my beautiful people. Ignore the lighting again. I can't get it to change. So a lot has happened. I'm on page like 729 or something. What I have found out and that I need to share is Baxian was Danica's mate. Mind absolutely blown. He's not even a wolf, so how was that a thing? It's just been found out because he has the tattoo of the saying on him. And Bryce is basically refusing to believe it. She's like, there's no way that Danica would have a mate and she wouldn't know about it. But Danica had that power that she could kind of remove the scent that she had a mate and everything. So it is very possible. Then we have had Ethan has found out that the wolf that is in the astronomer's bath area, when they went to the astronomer and there was the
the beings in the baths and they were trying to get to Connor. He has went to Sabine and to the Prime and said, look, there's a wolf there, like she's been badly used, she shouldn't be there, she's an alpha, she needs to be taken out. Sabine's just like, it's not our business, we're not doing it. And then the Prime has just sat there, not said anything. Sabine's basically like, just don't bother, like it's not worth your time, it's nothing to do with us, there's plenty of alphas out there, we don't need it. The Prime then comes out after that conversation and says that there's more than one Fendra to the throne, heir to the throne. So I think that wolf that has been in the astronomer's bath salts for like years and years is actually like Sabine's sister. So when Danica wanted the world to change and Sabine not to be the alpha and like be as high up as she is, she wanted a world where that wasn't possible, and she maybe knew that this alpha existed somewhere that was related to her mum that could change everything. And Ethan has now obviously cottoned on to this. Now Bryce doesn't know about this yet, but she's obviously trying to search and find this. Also, there was numbers found on the corpse of, whose corpse was it? I can't remember whose it was. Was it Sophie's? Yeah, Sophie's corpse had like all these numbers and things on it. And Baxine has said, well, those numbers, I gave them to Danica because she was really interested in those numbers and it has something to do with the archives. Now, Rune has went to see Day and they have made fuck, shall we say. He still doesn't know who she is. She basically kept her head hidden in flames, but they had sex. And Rune has said, I need to go to the archives. And Day has turned around and been like, absolutely not. Like, you can't go there. I can't save you. Nobody can help you there. They will kill you. But they're all a way to go and investigate that. So I don't know where this is going, but it's getting quite intense. And a lot seems to be happening. And I feel like I'm taking longer to update you guys because I'm trying to just keep reading because I'm just so invested in it. So I will try and break away to update you, but I think that's a brief summary of all the things that I needed to say. So I've finished and I have a lot to catch these up on. So there is, what parts do I need to fill you in on? Because I feel like I just read like 80 pages and didn't update these. Oh yes, so Danica and Sophie had found out what was down in the archives, and so did Bryce. She found out that the Asteri are basically stealing starlight, like first light and second light, from people living and dead, and they have been going off for years and years and fighting off all these other worlds and basically just stealing all of their light and living immortally that way. And obviously they don't want everyone to know that. And Hell had been fighting with them and stuff as well. So that has all happened. Celestina, not a good person. I kind of sussed her out. She basically sold them out so that her secret with Hypixia would be hidden. So that was infuriating, but she was an archangel, so she wasn't going to be good. I mean, look at Mika from the first book. Wasn't going to be good. We found out who Day was. Day is the Hind, so mind blown. Bryce has escaped to a faraway land. She thought she was going to Hell so that she could go and get all the princes of Hell to come back and fight up on Midgard to kick this Asteri out the way and be like, right, it's our time to shine. The world needs to be better. And then we also had, so she went down and she was being chased by, I've forgotten his name. I just feel like I've got information overload. And she thought she was going to Hell. So she is like teleported and fallen down to where she thinks Hell is. But she has come to like this Fae world where she doesn't know anyone there. There's someone there that looks like Rune, but with like pointed ears. And we found out it's Rhysand.
from A Court of Thorns and Roses. What is he doing there? What is going on there? So mind blown. Loved that bit. Took me by surprise. Had no idea that was going to happen. And then the last chapter of the book was when Ethan went back to where the astronomer was because he wants to go get the alpha that's in the bathtub. And he's basically saying to her, like, come on, get up. I need you to help my friends. She's like attached to all the monitors and like the machines and everything again. And he's like, right, I can't wake her up from this dream state. So he is like begging her, and then her hand moves and her eyes open, and then that's the end. Like, I feel like I've just been robbed of an ending. Like, I was turning the page, the next page, and I was like, oh, there's no more. There's no more of it. What's happening? So it's like a cliffhanger, but it's not even like a climactic cliffhanger. So I'm kind of left like feeling a bit like I've just invested 805 pages into that as an ending. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of stuff happened, but it's kind of put me off and I really don't know what I'm going to rate it. I feel like I'm going to rate it a 4 because there was a lot of storylines and plots in it that blew my mind. Rhysand, love it. Can't wait to see where that goes. But yeah, I think I'm going to do a 4-star. I did really enjoy it. It was really good, but there's just things in this one that just, House of Earth and Blood just totally drew me in, and like I enjoyed the whole journey of that. Whereas I enjoyed the journey of House and Sky and Breath, but I just feel like it felt rushed towards the end, and like she didn't know what to end it with, and that kind of puts me off a little bit. And yeah, I don't know if Hunt's alive or dead, because there was a scene where we don't know what's happened to him because he just doesn't think anything again. So I don't know if he's alive or dead. But I didn't even feel like there was quite a build up and like emotion built around that. Usually when Sarah J Maas creates a character and like they're going to be killed or you think they're going to die, there's quite a build up and like you really feel the tension and the emotion. But that, it just felt very devoid of that. So that was bizarre. So unless I'm just really tired and I just haven't taken that on board properly, I'm not really sure. But yeah, I'm going to end this vlog here. I hope you guys have enjoyed the journey with me. It's been quite a long journey, so if you've made it to the end, thank you so much. But yes, book 2 is finished. Am I going to read the third one? Yes, I am, when it eventually comes out. Am I disappointed by the end of the second one? Yes, I am. But the journey was still a lot of fun.